Alright folks, long time no see, but boy do I have an interesting video for you today. So as you can see from the mini model that I have in front of me, we'll be talking about the Audi RS6 today, more specifically my Audi RS6. This is a 2023. It's only available as one trim here in the US, but yeah, it's as you can see, it's not a standard color, and I apologize that it's quite dirty. It's been raining here on and off in California and Oregon actually, and it's been incredibly hard to keep the car clean. But nevertheless, I'll be walking you folks through my Audi RS6 2023. This particular car is in Goodwood green. It's an Audi exclusive color. I've chosen to stick with the alu optics, as you can see, and much more importantly, instead of the optional 22-inch tires that you see in the model car over here, I stuck with the standard 21-inch tires. I know it's fairly subjective, but I like the look of these tires a lot, or wheels rather, a lot more than the slightly more out there 22-inch wheels. Again, personal opinion, but I don't like the look of the 22s, and I feel like this is a little bit more befitting of a car like the RS6. So alright, so oh, by the way, a little bit of a departure from my previous videos. I've gotten some feedback. I won't be doing like hour-long videos. I will be covering very similar content in that I'll be going into the nitty-gritty details of the technology, the design, the engine, everything, the powertrain, drivetrain, but I've decided to split it into multiple different parts, so that way it's a little bit more consumable, so to speak, from everyone's perspective. And so you'll see multi-part sort of like videos trickling into the channel over the coming weeks. So with that, why don't we get started? So as I'd mentioned, this is going to be a multi-part video series. In today's video, we'll go over the, let's say, overview of the car, touch upon sort of like some key facts, if I can call it that. Most of the stuff that you folks must have already seen and heard and read from reviews and articles and other videos out there, but it's a good sort of like baseline to start off of. And then I'll focus more on the powertrain in one of the videos, the drivetrain and powertrain, the infotainment, and the ADAS and technology in this car. It's really something crazy if you sort of dive into the details. So with that, let's get started with the overview. So this is what is known as the C8 generation of the A6 platform, on which the RS6 is based off of. This car actually shares very little in terms of the sheet metal with the A6 or the A6 Allroad. If I'm not mistaken, it's just the actual roof up top and the rear tailgate. There is nothing else, to the best of my knowledge, in terms of the sheet metal that's shared with the base A6 platform. Now that is a massive departure from previous generation RS6s, to the point where the front end, if you notice, it is actually near identical to the A7. That's why it has a much wider stance, has a much lower sort of like profile, and the grille looks completely different. And that's because the front is literally that of the A7 series, grafted on to a A6 sort of like chassis and body. So yeah, so this is the C8 generation. This is actually the latest, and funnily enough, if I'm not mistaken, only the second RS6 generation that has come to the US as a wagon, Avant. In fact, the previous couple of generations didn't even make it to the US because they were wagon only, like the C7 and C6. In my personal opinion, the C7, which is the previous gen, is the best looking of all the RS6s. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into why I feel about that, feel that way. But so yeah, this is the C8. It's a handsome car. It's not as subtle and sort of like flying under the radar as the C7 and the C6 and the C5. Everything's a little bit more sort of out there in terms of, especially the rear. You can see that little sort of accent at the bottom. It's further accentuated with the alu optic, but I do feel like if you buy an S or an RS, the whole alu optic signature, whether it's the accents or the side view mirrors, it's part of what makes the S and RS, well, an S and RS, right? It's a signature look, and I wanted it to stay true to that. But nevertheless, I do feel that this car is a little bit more out there compared to the previous generations. Not that I don't like it, I actually do like it a lot, hence I purchased it. But I do think the C7 is a much more elegant and timeless design. So again, base 21-inch tires. It's funny to sort of call out 21-inch as the base size, but it is what it is. And what you see over here are actually winter tires. As I mentioned, we keep going back and forth fairly frequently between Oregon and here, and so it's actually fairly wintry weather up there, and so didn't want to risk it. Despite it having Quattro, we went with Pirelli's winter tires on these. We will be swapping them out in the coming months as the weather clears out. So yeah, that's the exterior of this car. Like I said, it's a mishmash of mostly A7 level parts or panels, with a lot of bespoke panels that are unique to the RS6. The signature, obviously, of all these RS cars are those massively flared wheels. I don't know if you can see it over here, the massively flared wheel arches. You can see how it sort of like juts out all the way. Looks beautiful, and it makes an RS an RS. I was a little bit disappointed if you saw my RS3 video, where they didn't really kind of like play with this particular part of the RS design, the hips. But I'm very happy to report that on the RS6 they haven't skimped at all. It looks beautiful, it looks gorgeous. All right, we'll move from front to back. So these are full LED, matrix LED lights for the US with laser. Now I do want to mention one thing. In the US, because of certain DOT regulations and whatnot, the full capability of the matrix LED lights are not enabled. I know that law was revised a few months ago, I think in 2022, but even the 2023 model year cars, which is what this is, does not have the full matrix LED enabled. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to go with the third-party route. Again, the tech, the feature already exists. You just need to enable it in code. There are, if you just go through various RS6 forums and RS7 forums, you'll find that there are ways to get either yourself or someone else to enable the full matrix LED functionality. You have these massive functional vents over here. You can see the radiators deep set in there, along with, again, openings at the bottom and at the top. The middle is completely blacked out. This is usually where your number plate would go. Again, functional vents at the bottom left and right corners. And what you also see is a fairly comprehensive sensor suite. So on the one hand, you'll see the ultrasonic sensors over here, and here and over there, and another one on the other side. So those are obviously for your measuring your parking distance. You also have a suite of cameras. The one front facing one is right over there, and these two rectangles, which in my opinion aren't the best integrated, but you will see them or would have seen them in a whole slew of A6, A7, Q7s, Q8s the last few years. These are very interesting, because unlike certain other manufacturers who have been finding ways to claim autonomy or semi-autonomy while skimping out on sensors, and I won't call out the manufacturer in particular, Audi has actually gone the other route, where for essentially what they offer, which is, let's call it level 2 autonomy, right? Adaptive cruise control, lane keep and stuff like that, stuff that's fairly standard. They've gone well overboard with their sensor suite. So if you get the driver assistance package, which, as you know, this car has, you'll get the long range radar, which is the box over there, and you get a LiDAR, a laser scanner over here, in addition to the cameras and the camera that you see up top over there on top of the windshield. So this is, again, very advanced for a car that is basically level 2 autonomy. My guess is, if you folks remember, when the current generation A8 was announced or launched a few years ago, Audi did in fact have plans to enable level 3 autonomy on it as part of their ZFAS platform. It's German for essentially centralized driver assistance systems. But I think for regulatory and other reasons, they decided to skip having level 3 enabled either here in the US or worldwide. But nevertheless, the hardware is included, and again, grossly over provisioned hardware for the actual feature set enabled on the car. And now moving on, so again, as I mentioned, these are the 21-inch tires, the base tires, if I can call it that. It's a square setup on the RS6 in that, unlike the RS3, which had a reverse staggered setup between the front and the back, in that the front tires were wider than the rear, primarily to counter any understeer. This is a square setup. There is no stagger here. If I'm not mistaken, the 21 inches are 275/35s, and I think the winter setups are also 275/35 21s on these. So in the front, you have some fairly massive, and I mean properly massive brake rotors. These are not the carbon ceramic rotors. These are the standard steel rotors. I didn't really feel the need for carbon ceramic rotors on what is primarily going to be a family road trip car. Massive rotors. I think they're 14 point something inches, or sorry, 16 point something inches on the front. You'll see the correct number on the screen, but again, huge. And in fact, a fun fact, if you opt for the carbon ceramic brake package, it's the exact same brake setup as you have with the Lamborghini Urus. And I think they, in addition to getting carbon ceramic as a material, they upsize it to, I think, 17 point something inch. Again, you'll see the exact number on screen. So crazy, crazy, crazy numbers for what is, again, fundamentally a family car, although a highly souped up one. So that's the front setup. So more of the alu optic trim all along. These have the capacitive touch lock unlock, not my favorite feature. And also, by the way, since this has the executive package, it has the soft close doors. So there you go, it basically closes itself. Again, not a fan of it, but that's the way Audi bundles it. If you want the extended leather, you have to get this. Yeah, I've never quite understood the Volkswagen Group's obsession with packages here in the US. The rears, again, as I mentioned, are a square setup, 275/35 21 inch, but I think the rotors are 14 point something inches. Again, you'll see it on screen, not carbon ceramic. Fun fact with the rears on the RS6, unlike certain other cars in the Audi lineup here in the US, on the RS6 and RS7, rear axle steering is standard. So you must have seen this on a few other cars, usually at the higher end. So the way it works is at the lower speeds, I don't remember the exact number, the threshold, but at lower speeds, you'll see the rear wheels steer in the opposite direction of the front wheels. The idea being to massively reduce the turning circle or the turning radius of a car this big, and I can promise you it works beautifully. This car, despite its gargantuan proportions, is actually much easier to steer in parking lots and tight surfaces or tight situations than our previous A4 all-road. And at higher speeds, it actually tilts the rear wheels in the direction of the front wheels. So that leads to an additional feeling of stability when making high-speed maneuvers or cruising down the highway and the interstate and stuff like that. So again, fantastic job in packaging or making the car feel like it has a smaller footprint than it actually does. So moving to the back, these are the sport exhausts. That's why you see the black tips on them, or well, blackish. Again, apologies for the dirt, but these are not standard. I think the standard ones are the non-sport exhausts, and they have the chrome or metal, bare metal look. So there is some contention about whether or not these sport exhausts are really just these black exhaust tips, or there is something that is done to the resonator or whatnot to make it sound different or better. I obviously don't have another RS6 to compare it to, but I did want to go with the black tips so that it sort of blends in a little bit better with the lower sort of like finish. This is the part, for me at least personally, that is most contentious when it comes to the RS6 design, the rear. For one, as I'd mentioned earlier, these arches that you see here, the rear valance, it's a bit much in my opinion. They went a little too overboard. It does look cool in accentuating the sort of like width of the car and the calling attention to the exhaust, but it's a bit much. Again, my opinion. Second, it totally did not need these fake vent grill design motif at all, right? Again, this is an RS. If there isn't need for something, you just shouldn't have it over here. The third, I'm not a huge fan of the reflectors, either the design or the location. So overall, I feel like the rear is, I know it's strange calling it that, but the weakest part of the RS6. Now I know some of these issues, especially the bottom trim not standing out so much, can be mitigated by going with either the black optic or the carbon optic package. That is true, that is factually accurate. But as I had mentioned earlier, for me, an S or an RS, the signature look, like if you live up to the homage of the previous generation S and RS, is to have the satin finish, satin metal finish, or the alu optic. So that's one big reason why I stuck with these. The lights again are bespoke. You will see the animation. I'll put in a little video on the inset for you to be able to see the animation. They play a cool little animation when you turn them on and off. Again, I think there are ways where if you have a high trim A6 or A6 all-road, if you have the VCDS or OBD11, you can enable some of these animations on your car as well. So yeah, in terms of look and design, external design, it's a very handsome car. But as I've already stated a few times on this in this video, I feel like it falls short of the timeless beauty that is the C7 RS6. Moving on to the interior. So we have the cognac leather for the interior with the executive package, which includes extended leather both on top of the dash, that's real leather over there, as well as on the center armrest, the side of the center console, a bunch of other areas. I love this color. Unfortunately, most of the RS6s that you'll see on dealer lots, not that there are a whole lot of them, most of them end up choosing the safe black leather package. I just feel like that's a lost opportunity, especially with the right color combo. In this case, the Goodwood green pearl, the cognac color offsets it or contrasts it beautifully. So if you do get an opportunity to custom order your RS6 or RS7, I strongly urge you to go the route of cognac, or again some custom color if you're going all exclusive. I did think long and hard about going exclusive on the interior as well, like we did with the exterior, but the wait times were just bonkers. Like for reference, even this car, we ended up waiting 1.5 years from ordering it to taking delivery, primarily because of the Audi exclusive color. So nevertheless, moving on, you'll notice one thing right off the bat. There is a satin matte sort of like finish to all these panels and the screen. This is not standard. Off the shelf, this car comes with the much hated gloss, piano gloss black plastic trims all over, strewn all over, right? On this side over here, the strip that runs across, as well as all of this at the center console. Not only is it a fingerprint and dirt magnet, it scratches up super easily. So one of the first things that I ended up doing was ordering an expel kit. I'll put the details on screen or in the description if you want to order it. The expel kit to essentially cover all of this up, not only protect it, but also give it, in my opinion, a much sleeker, more stealth look. So yeah, since this is an overview, I won't dive into the details. I'll make a separate video for it. But something new, and I actually did not expect this, and I think they changed it, and people can correct me if I'm wrong. This is exposed carbon fiber. This is not, for some reason, oh, there you go, it's focusing better. This is exposed carbon fiber, right? You can see the texture. I don't know if it comes through in the actual video. So this looks hella cool. I do think it's going to be an absolute pain to try and maintain and keep clean. You can already see like little dirt and dust particles sort of like, you know, settling in there, it's just going to be a pain, but it does look very, very, very cool in my opinion. But the downside of this is that you cannot put any kind of film, protective film on top of it because of the texture. It won't hold, right? Yep. So, and then you have some suede. Let me look at this side. Some suede, Alcantara-ish material, door inserts. Again, gives it a very premium look and feel. You have some real metal trim over there alongside with the trim on top that you see. Again, in typical Audi fashion, very, very premium. Leather up top, soft touch plastics over here. And this unfortunately is hardish. I really wish for an RS6 class they had soft all over. So standard steering wheel, again, will not get into the details in this video, but the idea is to give everyone a quick overview of things. The dual screen setup, I will have a follow-up video that pours into deep, gory details about the technology in this car, because good Lord, it's mind-blowing, especially since 2021, where they updated the MIB3. It's called MIB3 Premium instead of MIB3 High. Again, we'll get into the details later, but the dual setup, then you have a handful of physical buttons over here and a handful of capacitive buttons, a row of capacitive buttons at the bottom. So that's really what it is. Thank God these are physical buttons on the steering wheel, not like the newer Volkswagens where it's all capacitive. So oh yeah, heated and cooled seats. That's another big problem, by the way. If you want to get the massage function here in the US, you cannot get these sport seats. You are forced to get these standard seats, and those come with heating, cooling, and massage. If you want the massage function, don't want the massage function or willing to skip it, you get the cooler RS seats in Cognac. Well, that's the other thing. You get massage in the US, it's black leather only. Once again, Audi, I don't know why you do this. The last thing I want to talk about on the front is this camera here you see over here. This is actually an OEM setup. This is the OEM kit that Audi sells. I'll have a detailed video about this, or I'll include details about this in the technology video. But this thing is awesome. It integrates beautifully with the in-car Wi-Fi, and it does a phenomenal job of helping you record and keep track of all the other idiots on the road. And this setup is dual channel, so you have one channel, the front facing channel here, and well, you can't see it from here, I'll show it when we go behind. You have another camera facing back. So yep, this is the sort of like the front interior of the RS6 in typical Audi fashion. Exceptionally good quality, exceptionally good design, and yeah, bang up job. On the rear, again, no real surprises, plenty of legroom. There is a capacitive touch interface to control the 4-zone climate control. So each seat or each seat region essentially has their own climate. This particular spec also has heated rear seats. I wanted that. And there are 2 USB-C ports over there at the bottom for you to be able to charge your devices, in addition to the standard cigarette lighter 12-volt socket. A similar choice of materials and design for the rear. You have leather, stitched leather at the top, exposed carbon fiber with actual metal, leather, and you have hard touch plastic at the bottom. And you do have the Bang & Olufsen, but not the Bang & Olufsen Advanced, the one where the tweeters rise. I just felt that was way overkill for what I really listen to and use the speakers in my car for. The shade, rear sunshade, I think this is also part of the executive package, so another reason why I wanted to get it. Again, the rears also come with the soft close, power soft close doors. This is the boot, another big reason why we wanted to go for the RS6. Funny story, we were actually planning on getting an A6 all-road to replace the A4 all-road that we had, but yeah, one thing led to another, and we ended up ordering an RS6 instead. So we have dogs, as you've seen from previous videos. Again, that's why it's a little bit dirty, but the boot area is well protected. In addition to this cargo liner, which we got in a plaid design, I also have the rubber floor mats. So yeah, everything is very well protected. Oh, as I'd mentioned, this is the rear camera. that you'll be able to see over here. So there is a continuous front and rear video feed that is being recorded, which is awesome, and I think it's very, very important, especially in places like the Bay Area where there are way too many idiots on the road. You have the release for the rear seats. This is a big disappointment for me personally, where in a car like this, Audi chose to not to have like electronic release and electronic release and control for the rear seats. These are mechanical. They do a good job of collapsing the seats, as you will see right now. There you go. But in order to pull them back, you have to go to the rear door, push them back. I know it sounds stupid for me to complain about something like this, but again, for the class of vehicle this is, and if you look at the BMW and Mercedes equivalents, they offer this feature. So why Audi decided to skip something like this on a car like this is beyond me, but nevertheless, it is what it is. Usual set of controls over here to close and lock the car, so nothing new over there. And again, very nice interior design, exceptionally good choice of materials in typical Audi fashion. The only sort of like beef that I have is, apart from the flat bottom steering wheel that you see over there with the RS logo, there really isn't any meaningful differentiation on the interior from the regular A6. Some people may like that. I am sort of like on the fence. I would have liked a little bit more differentiation to set this apart from the A6, but I am definitely happy they didn't go overboard the way BMW has been recently with their interior and exterior treatments on their M cars, where short of the owner getting a factory tattoo, it's just a little bit much. So there you have it, a short overview video of my RS6 2023. As I mentioned, I will be releasing more sort of like clips, like let's say 15-20 minutes in length, that cover each sort of segment of the car: powertrain, drivetrain, the infotainment, a bunch of features and whatnot, because it's a very, very interesting car and some very interesting engineering decisions that Audi has made for this car. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you guys soon in an upcoming video. Take care.